Hello, my name is Codemaster Jamal, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a tutorial about how to put together a title screen in Unity. Originally, I wasn't going to do this tutorial because I feel like there's enough tutorials about how to put a main menu together for Unity. This question actually comes from University of Education. I decided to put this crash course in Unity main menus. Let's get straight to it. So here's the first thing you want to do. You want to get an art program. Use paint.net, GIMP, you use Krita. If you have Photoshop, go ahead, go with that. It really doesn't matter. As long as the art program allows you to create layers within it, pretty much anything will do. You can pretty much do all the exact same things, but there might be a few differences here or there. What you're going to do is you're going to go here to File, and you're going to create a new image. And you're going to want to set this image to be 1920 by 1080. Right now, you can go 1280 by 720, or you can go higher than that by going to 2560 by 1440. Basically, the bigger the image, the more HD it is. So if you want to make a very, very HD image, I'd say go with the biggest setting you possibly go to. If possible, I will link somewhere on the video of the different dimensions you can go with. Essentially, you want to make a big image because unless you're designing for PC or a certain screen size, you want something that's pretty much going to stretch across as much as possible. So the bigger the better. I'm going with this because I typically make computer games, and this is probably not necessarily best, but it's good enough for computer games. So we're gonna go with 1920 by 1080. All right, now that you got your image ready, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna select the color. When it comes to actually designing the title screen, that's completely up to you. Design wise, go with whatever artistic creation you can come up with. For now, I'm just gonna use some basic colors and some basic shapes, and that'll pretty much get the job done for this tutorial. So I picked the color red, selected the paint bucket tool, and I filled this red. That's the first layer. That's gonna be the background of our title screen. Now we're gonna go on to the second part, which is building the different sections of your title screen. So for example, this is gonna be a very, very simple title screen, or main menu, however you wanna call it. It's gonna have the name of the game at the top, and then you're gonna have three options: new game, continue, or quit. Very simple. This first bar up here at the top, as you can see, paint.net, by default, I'm using a rectangle. I actually want to go with a more rounded, not necessarily to give it a border, but to give it a bit of depth. I just like more rounded things. I like things that are well rounded. So yeah, that's basically going to be the one panel where we're going to put the title of our game. Let's create another layer. In GIMP, you can create a layer with Control-Shift-N. If you're using Krita, I believe it's Insert. Photoshop and GIMP are a little bit different, but you all have the ability to basically create layers with your photo editing software, whatever you may choose. For each part of the title screen, we're going to create a different layer, and then that layer itself will be like a different part. We're going to create a different layer, and then we're going to export each part of the layer into different image files itself. You get the basic gist of it. I really hope this is making sense, because I'm trying to make it as basic as possible and keep it in layman's terms. Sometimes that doesn't entirely work out. I'm going to duplicate it 3 times. I'm going to start by moving the first one. The shortcut for that is M in paint.net. While it may take some time, basically just going to separate it apart so that way it's directly below. An actual easier way to do this is to actually move one part at a time and then duplicate that layer, but you know what I mean? It works out regardless, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, there we go. Now that we have those panels, here's where it gets kind of tricky, especially when we go into Unity. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to put some text on top of these parts here just so you have a basic understanding of what each part does. But I'm not going to actually export the text that's actually going to be on it. You could, if you want to be lazy, and export it with text on that. But as you can see, I put together this title screen. It doesn't look as good as the other one, so I might go with the other one. But this is just a basic example of how to put it together. The point is that I'm going to put some text on this real quick, but that's not exactly what I'm actually going to export to Unity. What I'm going to export to Unity is the actual blue part here itself, the panel. We're going to call them panels for now. Each panel is going to be kind of its own image. So for example, what you would do is you kind of cut this out of your photo, Control C, Control N. Most art programs already gives you dimensions of what you copied. So you can just click enter, and then you can Control V paste. Yeah, that's it. And then what you would do is that you'll go here and you go save as, and then you would basically save that panel. But I'm not going to actually use this panel for the actual project test. Basically what I would do, I would actually duplicate it just so I have a copy of that panel. So I know there's going to be one I'm going to modify and one I'm not going to modify. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then I'll make it invisible because I know I'm not going to do anything on that. So now we're going to go here to this blue panel that is visible, and I'm going to select white text, and the font I'm going to be using is Feast of Flesh, which I know isn't copyrighted text, but this is purely for educational purposes. I believe that doesn't break the terms of usage. For learning purposes, I could use it within this video. I'm going to write in here your game title right here. Might want to make it a little bit bigger. This is to give you a basic idea of what your title screen is going to look like inside of an actual computer program, what it's going to look like once it actually boots up. And the reason why you do this as practice is so that you have a basic rough idea of how your game's supposed to look. So let's go on to the other 3 panels we have here. Okay, so we're going to go here and we're going to say new game. Next one, we're going to say continue. Next one, we're going to say quit. Now, if you're doing like an MMORPG, you might want to create some parts for like a login and username. I know I did with mine, so that's why in actual Virtual Monsters login, you see the login and username. But if you're just trying to make a very, very basic game title screen for a non-MMO, I'm not entirely too sure what other buttons you would want to put on it. But once again, like I said, it's up to you to be creative with this title screen itself. But this is the basic process and how you do everything. So for example, if I wanted it to be lazy, I could actually export each one of these images with that actual font onto it, but I'm not going to do that. Instead of doing that, I'm actually going to export each panel itself. All right, so here's the thing. I kind of already created a title screen before, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of use these because I kind of like how this one turned out a little bit more than how this one turned out. But you get the basic idea of how I created this title screen. So I'm going to go ahead and export all of these into Unity, or I'm going to export each image itself as a PNG file and then export that into Unity. So I'll do that off screen and I'll catch up with you guys once I'm back in Unity. Okay, so I created a new Unity project. I called it Title Screen Tutorial. As you can see, my project is completely empty. There's nothing in it. I have this scene here as just as a main camera and directional light. On a side note, I forgot to mention that when you create your UI, I created, see this one panel here is purple and this panel here is yellow. It's basically a highlight for whenever someone hovers over the button. It's just for an animation effect. If you want to get more into actually animating your title screen, like I said, there's other tutorials. I'm purely doing this to help out a friend. First, I need to actually create some folders here in Unity. This one here, I'm going to call it scenes. Another one here, we're going to call it scripts. That's how I like to do all my Unity projects. It's just by setting up everything beforehand. Setting up your folders first. It's the best way to get things done in a project, because the more organized you are, just the better things get situated and, you know, things start to work out. And yay, you know, results, progress. That's the basic idea. Okay, so right now we have 3 folders for now. For scenes, scripts, and textures. I'm gonna go into scene, save as, call it the main scene. So now we have something. Go here, Unity just updated. Here we go here, textures, UI. We need to set up a few things here in Unity before we do anything else. I'm going to show you actually how to do the UI with TextMesh Pro and the basic UI elements that comes within Unity. You can use either or. I started using TextMesh Pro for my own game recently, but you can use either or, and I'll show you the differences between the built-in UI system, I guess, and TextMesh Pro, which was originally like it was something you can buy from the asset store, but now it comes packaged into Unity. So let's set up this here. Default. Alpha is transparency. We're going to want to do that first. Next, we're going to go to wrap mode, clamp, point, no filter, and then the max size for this, even though it's not 1024, this is actually supposed to be 1024 by 1024. But for now, it's, as you can see, it's 1024 by 256. We're gonna hit apply for now. Does everything it needs to do that, but then we need to also set this texture type here to Sprite 2D UI, so that way it keeps kind of that transparency setting, as you can see here. and then we're gonna hit apply, because we're gonna do a lot more things to it now. You're gonna do the exact same thing you did to this to the other 3 panels here. Actually, for this screen background, it's actually okay if it's on repeat, because it's pretty much just gonna stretch across the screen. If it was an image that was like made up of a bunch of different images that you don't want stretching, you would go here and click clamp, so that way it only repeats the image one time. I'm actually okay with this repeating, because it's better for this style of UI. Anything else should be different. Apply, Sprite 2D UI. Just a pro tip of computer science: save and save often. My teachers have been telling me this since middle school. Just save and save often. Okay, let's actually get into building the UI itself. I actually don't think it makes that much of a difference if it's Sprite 2D UI. I might go back and change this, so hope you guys keep that as a note. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go here, and we're actually gonna create the canvas for our game. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna go to UI, and we're going to select canvas. See right here? It's the 4th option from the bottom, canvas. All right, that creates a canvas for your game. The way how the game works is that you can have, let's say if we were to put like a terrain inside of here, have this terrain here, this terrain mesh here. We're gonna paint onto it. This terrain would basically be where your game is, and this screen here is basically where the game writes on top of the screen of the game, if that makes any sense. So everything in your game can be happening here, but you have this screen here, which is the UI, which is basically just the interface of the game. You can display health points. You can do a lot of things with Unity's canvas, basically. The point is that this UI actually writes to the first layer of the screen, and then everything else in your game is kind of like a different instance. It's really hard for me to explain the best way possible, but basically that's what this is. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna delete the terrain, because we're not gonna be using that. Let's see something. Delete that from here, because it's gonna be taking a lot of space, and we don't need that right now. So we're gonna go here to canvas, and okay, so what we're gonna do is that create our canvas. We're gonna go here to canvas, and we're gonna go to the canvas scaler, and we're gonna select scale with screen size, and the actual size of our image, if you remember, which is why it's very important to write down the dimensions of your images. We started with the dimensions of 1920 by 1080. If it's on a much bigger screen, Unity will pretty much handle the stretching beyond that, but for right now, we want the canvas in our game to actually fit the canvas that we created. So we're going to select that, and next we're going to go here to add component, and we're going to add an image. All right, now with this image component, which is why we turned everything into a Sprite 2D UI, is so that we can actually just slide this right in here. So now we have a canvas with a red background that we created in paint.net. As simple as that. There really isn't much more left here to do on the canvas, so let's go on to the next thing. Next, what we're going to do, okay, so we're going to go UI, and we're going to select image, and this image is actually going to be our title, the name of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and rename it game title for now. And then inside of game title, I'm going to go text, and then next, inside of game title, the actual image itself, we're going to anchor it basically. And now what anchoring does is that no matter if the screen resizes, it doesn't matter where it resizes, it'll maintain either its shape or it'll resize the image that it contains to the size of the screen. So I want to anchor this at the very top of the screen, so it's the first thing that people read when they see the game. All right, so we're going to anchor that right there. But then what we also need to do within the UI is actually move it up here, so that way it's actually at the top of the screen. You don't just anchor it here, you also want to move it up. So now I'm going to go here, and we're going to move the blue title panel. We're going to move it onto the image for the sprite here. So now we're actually going to set the height and width of this image right here. We're going to go to the rectangle transform to actually change the width and height to what it says down here, which is the actual width and height of the actual image itself. Because remember, that's why we did everything in an editing program at a specific dimension. So that way everything looks exactly as it did in the editing program as it does in the game. Does it make sense now? So we're going to set this at 1024 by 165, And as you can see, we have that there. We don't really need to do anything else to the image itself. That's why we did all the editing to the actual sprite UI. So yeah, we did everything here in the inspector. That way we don't have to actually do anything to the image itself. If you want to go ahead and play around with some things, go be my guest. That's the best way to get better at Unity, is to actually play around with it. Here, hold on. I'm actually, oops. In order to give this thing a more proper height, I'm actually going to set this here to -100 in order to give it a more even height. So now that we've done that, we did this text here object earlier, and we made it a child of this game title. So I'm actually going to rename this here to title name. The title of our game will be your game title here. All right. Perfect. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? No, not really. Well, you want to know why? It's because we don't have any fancy font for it. I'm actually, before I even do that, I'm actually going to fix up a few things. I'm actually going to make it centered. You really want to mess around with a few of these before you actually just go ahead with the next step. Make sure you center the text. And we're actually going to go back here to assets again. And I forgot to create a folder. You know what folder I forgot to create? Folder for fonts. Which is why it's very important I teach you guys how to do it with TextMesh Pro as well, and show you guys the actual difference between using the basic built-in Unity UI and the TextMesh Pro. I'm actually going to go here to game title, which is an image. We just renamed it. I'm actually going to go here and create a TextMesh Pro, but I'm going to set it as inactive for now because that's not that important. We're going to go inside fonts, and what we actually want to do is take some fonts. You can go to thefont.com. You can go, there's a lot of different places you can go to for some good font. If you want to commercially release your game, just make sure it's like royalty free, or you have the license to use this font within your game before releasing it out there on the market, because it just takes one letter from a lawyer to get your stuff taken down. So make sure you have some good fonts. If you want to take any fonts that you already have on your system, it's as simple as going to control panel, appearance, fonts. You can take any font. Now, the type of font we were using earlier was a font called Feast of Flush or something like that. So we need to go to F. Isn't that great? Everything's so organized. That's why you gotta love computers. I'm actually gonna move this font right into my fonts project. And as you can see, it created two different types of fonts. We're gonna go here to title name. And now, where it says here under character, where it says Arial, we're going to go ahead and move that here. But we're also going to resize the font. I actually want to make this the actual size of this image here by 165. And then I actually want to move it a little bit here, so that way it's more centered. And as you can see, we have your game title here. And then if we want to change the color of the font, and boom. So if we go here in our game, set to play, basically this is our title screen for now. It looks kind of crappy, but like I said, it's a very, very basic tutorial on how to set up a title screen. It's not about setting up a high resolution title screen. Okay, perhaps make it a little bit bigger. Okay, size 80 works really well. If you want, you can make it bold, but I think that looks terrible. So we're gonna keep it like that for now. Now I'm gonna show you how to do this with TextMesh Pro, which is the main part of this tutorial here. Now, if you're gonna do this with TextMesh Pro, here's the difference. We're gonna set this anchor. A lot of the UI, this tool here to basically set the UI, that's grand right there. That helps out a lot more than anything. I actually believe that I don't have to change the rectangular transform too much for it. We're just gonna say, we're going to do it actually in all capital letters. Your game title here. Now with TextMesh Pro, what we're going to do, how you actually change the font with TextMesh Pro is you're going to go here to right click, you're going to go to create, and then we're going to select a TextMesh Pro font accent. There we go. Next, we're going to go here and we're going to just move it because they're all relatable game objects. That's the best part. And in order to make this text a little bit better, I'm actually gonna go by 1024 by 165. And then you want to change the X and Y position. I was actually looking at it from the wrong place for a while. Sorry. I wasn't doing it in the actual scene editor. I was doing it through the actual game editor, but I wasn't looking too great. Maybe it's better. It's actually 200 by 50. So now I'm going to show you guys a little something here that I'm missing out on. You can actually just scale it if you use this tool here, which I believe is the rectangle tool. You just kind of scale it to be the size that you want, and then move over to the place that you want. See, I want my font to be a little bit bigger. I want it to be size 80. Size it up so that way it's actually same size. And there you go. And if you ask me, I think Text Mesh Pro looks a lot better. It's a lot sharper than the built-in Unity UI elements. I believe that's what they're called, UI elements. I would like to finish this with just Text Mesh Pro, but I'm going to show you guys how to do them in both for the rest of this tutorial. And go here to alignment, center. You can change up a few of the properties in this panel here. Just remember, the inspector is where you can change up, alter pretty much everything you need from within the inspector. This is before we even get to code. We haven't even gotten to the code part. Okay, now that we have the game title done, that's everything we need for the game title. I'm going to leave the Text Mesh Pro up for now, but that's everything we need for the game title. So actually, if we go here to build, we're going to go to build settings. Player settings. I want a resizable window, and I want this to be windowed at there. Actually, I want this to be 1920 by 1080. And now I'm going to click build and run, create a new folder, call it builds, select folder. Now I believe this thing can just build and run. Sorry about that. Before you actually build a game in Unity, make sure you always have a scene, then the scene selector. Now we hit build and run. Sorry, I had been recording with the microphone off for the longest of time. We finished the panel. Everything looked great within the panel. And now I'm going to show you guys how to do the 3 options for the game. And I'm going to show you with one example being with the button. And I'm going to rename this button new game. And then I'm going to do another with Text Mesh Pro. And I'm just going to call it new game Text Mesh Pro. Just so you guys understand the difference between the two. Right now I'm going to make the Text Mesh Pro one. I'm going to do the rest of the UI with Text Mesh Pro, but I'm going to show you guys how to do them in both. For now I'm going to make the Text Mesh Pro. I'm going to make it inactive. Please don't forget, I made the width and height of this panel here. I created a new game object. I made the width and height of this panel 1024 by 600. Very important, because this object itself is actually going to contain everything actually within the UI. It's like a container. Okay, so we're going to go here to new game, and as simple as this. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to go here to sprite swap, and we're going to just drag and drop everything here. Target graphic. Okay, where I'm supposed to actually drag and drop this UI is within the image part here, not the actual button part. It'll be this target graphic would be that target graphic, sorry. So the highlighted sprite, which is why we have this option here. You can create another animation for if it's pressed. If it's pressed, we're gonna go back to purple, and that's about it. You could do more different options down here, but I only created 2 options for now, so that's pretty much gonna be it. I want the actual size of the object itself. Basically, it's this image, but it's scaled down to this size here. So I want this image here to be the exact same size as its actual file size, which is why we did everything in one editing program in the first place. So we're gonna go 512 by 127. Next, we're gonna go to text, and we're gonna put in all capital letters, new game. And for new game, we already have it centered, it's great. Fonts, like we did before, if it's a regular Unity UI element, we just put in the font itself. If it's Text Mesh Pro, you're going to use this font asset that you create, once again, by right-clicking, going to create, and Text Mesh Pro font asset. Please don't forget that. Probably not the best Unity teacher by far. And we're going to make this size 80. And then we're going to change the color to white. You can change the color, like I said, because you're designing your own UI. You can make it whatever you want. Be as creative as possible. If you can be even more creative than that, man, be my guest. Go for it. Now, here's what we're going to change. I don't want this to necessarily anchor in the center, because it's going to be the first option of the 3 options you can choose. So the first option is going to be this one here, anchored to the top. And then we're actually going to move it to the top, so that way it's anchored there. Control D, duplicate, and then move the panels down, like so. But instead we're gonna rename this here to continue, and next we're gonna change the text to continue, And then what we're also going to do is that we're going to change its anchor to the center. So that way it's not the center of the screen itself, but it's the center of this game object that we created earlier, if that makes any sense. Next, we're going to move this last one down. If you want to be more calculated with it, for example, this one here is at -90, but it's not necessary. At least not for this tutorial. We're going to rename this button quit. Then we're going to go here to the text, change it to quit. And then finally, what we want to do is anchor this to the bottom of this game object. And there you have it. You have your UI set up exactly the way how we did inside of the video editing software. So we got it. We got it, y'all. We got it. I'm just going to move this here so everything's a bit more organized. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually we're going to build and run. I'm going to show you guys in TextMesh Pro in just a bit. It's pretty much the exact same, just a little bit different. But right now I actually want to build the game and show you guys what it looks like. Oh wait, we forgot to do one crucial thing. Okay, and there we go. As you can see, you have the 3 options. You know, if you click them, it doesn't really do anything right now because we need to go back and do some code in order to actually create basically the functions for it. But this is basically it. This is the basics of basically putting together a title screen. It gets a little bit more complicated from here. Let's do this in TextMesh Pro. Okay, now let's do this with TextMesh Pro, which is why I kind of prefer TextMesh Pro over the built-in Unity UI elements. It's just a lot more cool, and everything comes out a lot more sharper as well. And it also doesn't eat up your CPU and all that technical stuff. We're gonna make this new game TMP active, so show you the button, and then we need to change the UI sprite. So we already have our UI sprite. Slide it right in, and then we're gonna add a sprite swap, and basically when it's highlighted, we're gonna do the yellow option, and when it's pressed, we're gonna do purple for now. We're gonna copy this object and move it across the screen, but we need to set up everything the right way first. So go here to width, change it up to the appropriate size of the image file itself, and then we also need to anchor this to the top, and then we need to move it up to the top of the screen. Otherwise, it'll just be stuck there, and it'll only move when the size is rescreened. That's why that's very important. Okay. Next, we're going to go here, TextMesh Pro. We're going to go to rename it. We're going to call it New Game. We're going to set the font size to 80. And we're going to go here to Fonts. And we already created this font asset earlier. So we're just going to slide it right in. And there we go. We're also going to change the color to white. So that's basically it. So we basically copy the exact same thing I did with this here. The New Game, Continue, and Quit, but with TextMesh Pro. And I was saying earlier, sometimes you need to be kind of punctual with it. Right now I'm making the Y position -100, and I'm actually going to make this Y position -200 or -300. Probably -250. Yeah, that works. So this here is just an easier way of scrolling it down. Kind of coming here, make it -500. Oh, it's a little too much, 350. Sometimes you don't have to be the smartest guy, you just gotta know how to work around things. We're not gonna change anything with the button per se, so we're just gonna go here, and then we're gonna go change the text. Simple as that. That's all you have to do. It's that simple. Just change the text. Alright, and that's it. We could build and run this. Now with the code, you go here to scripts, and we're going to create 2 scripts. I'm going to call this a button scripts. Call this to TMP button scripts. And now we're going to go ahead and open these up in Visual Studio. Coding for the buttons are very, very simple. We're not going to use start or update because it's just not necessary. We're actually going to do all the code in one script. I guess if you want to be fancy, we can say using Unity Engine UI, which is the first thing I like to do when I start coding a script, is to actually, in Java, we call it import. Basically import all the different libraries you're going to use within the script, so at least that way you have an idea where everything is, or at least what you're going to use within that script. I believe we're actually not going to be using anything within UI, and I actually believe we could actually just do one script, even though I made 2 scripts, so I'm kind of a klutz. So basically, we just need to create 2 functions. The last thing we're actually going to do is the continue and in which you'll be able to select a different save slot, but we'll do that later. So for now, we actually just need to create two functions, and basically we're gonna make it a public void. We won't be needing using Unity Engine UI. I just like to do that as practice whenever. It's just a practice basically to import everything. Or in C# it's called using, but I like to say import because I'm a Java guy. But it's basically just practice to kind of import everything you already know you're going to use inside of your project before you actually build your class. I stress about using UML diagrams and actually writing down what your class is actually going to need before you actually even build the class, because it's just coding practice. We're going to make this public and not private, because if we made it private, you wouldn't be able to access this function outside of the class. This is basically to give you guys some basic understanding of programming in general. We're basically creating a function. You can name this function whatever you want. Some people usually name it on, submit, click, but it really doesn't matter what you name the function. You can name this function like, I don't know, goo goo ga ga. I don't even know. The point is, you could pretty much name it whatever you want. What I'm gonna name it is new game. And because I know I'm gonna be using this for two functions, I'm gonna have new game, and I'm gonna have another function called it did that. The other function, I just want to call it quit, or sorry, we're gonna call it quit game. Actually, now quit game is when we click the quit button. Okay, for quit game, we're pretty much just gonna go application. It's very, very simple, so that way people can actually exit your game without having to use a task manager or stopping the game manually. So we're gonna just go application quit, leave it something like that, leave it as an actual function. That's a very, very simple button to create for your game. So for actual new game, here's where things are gonna get kind of interesting, because we're actually gonna go using Unity Engine scene management, right? Because for the new game, we're actually going to go into our project and we're going to create another scene, and we're basically going to ask the Unity scene manager to basically load this scene when this button is created, so that way it loads the actual game itself. So we're just going to go scene manager, load scene, and I'm going to call the scene game for now, even though we haven't created the scene itself. So let's actually go back into Unity and do such. Hopefully this, Unity has to update. We have our two functions. We have new game and quit. This is basically how you access two functions that we created for our two buttons. We're gonna go here and we're gonna attach button scripts to this panel game object that we created earlier. Remember, this panel was just an empty game object. Now we're putting our button scripts here. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go to our new game button, and as you can see here, this function here called onClick basically happens whenever someone clicks the button. So we're gonna go here to click this plus button to basically add different functions and different things for when the button is clicked. Runtime only. We're gonna pass this game object called panel, which has our two functions. Remember, this is where it gets kind of confusing. We created these two functions called new game and quit game in a script called button script, and then we attached it to our game object called panel. We're gonna reference the new game function from the button script from the panel game object. Oh man, I really hope this doesn't get too confusing. I'm trying to make this a very, very basic tutorial. We're gonna go here to button scripts, which is because we're using it through the panel. You can access button scripts, and we're gonna select new game. Now we're gonna go here to quit. It'll be the exact same thing if you're using the regular Unity UI elements, so it's not that much of a difference, fortunately. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna pull panel, because panel has the button scripts, and we can actually reference button scripts from panel, and we're going to say quit game. Now for continue, I'm going to show you guys something really cool. I'm actually going to go here and I'm going to go Control D to create another panel, and I'm going to call this save slots. And with this panel here, we're actually just going to create 4 different save slots. I won't actually program any actual functionality for it. For right now, it's just user interface. We can actually go and rename these as save slot 1, save slot 2, save slot 3, and then we want to go here and actually rename this to save slot 1, save slot 2, save slot 3. Might be just about right. There might be a little bit of overlap, but it's okay. Next, we're gonna go call this save slot 4. And there we go. We have the 4 save slots. The way how this is gonna actually work is this is a different menu within your title screen. We're actually gonna set this menu, the save slots, as inactive for now, and we're gonna go to our continue button, and we're gonna go plus to add a new function on click, and the game object we will be putting in will be the actual panel itself. Actually, we know that when continue is clicked, we're gonna go to game object, and we're gonna set active, and we're gonna keep it at false, and then we're gonna create another function to be done, and we're gonna pass in our save slots game object, and we're gonna go to game object, set active, and we're gonna tick it as true. If you want to create a back button, because I didn't do that for the save slots, so let me actually go ahead and do that. I think I'm actually just gonna turn this one here into a back button. So there being 4 slave slots, there's only 1, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make that the back button. And then what I'll actually do on this button is go here and actually remove that. So let's actually remove, because don't forget when we copied this object, it still had all the same functions. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove those functions from that panel. And then we're going to go to this back button, and we're going to add 2, because we already know what we're going to do. We're going to add our panel, and we're going to go game object, set active, and we're set as true. So that way it sets the panel object as true, and we switch back to the main menu. And then we're going to go here to save slots, and then we're going to go game object, set active, and we're going to leave it as false. So now, if we've done everything properly and everything works correctly, we should have a pretty decent working title screen UI. The last thing we're gonna do is actually export everything. And if everything goes as according to plan, everything should work out pretty well. So we're gonna go ahead, build, run. Perhaps I should have did something different with the back button, now that I think about it. Actually, with this back button, I could have actually done something really, really cool. Let's see, UI. I'm actually gonna make the back button yellow. We're actually gonna change that up just to make it a little bit more cool. We're gonna change the text color to black. Normally I would make things visible, but I kind of already know how it's supposed to look. So I'm gonna build it, and new Unity project, even though it should say something else. Okay, we have our title screen, we have our menu, we have these options we can go back and forth from. We can't do anything to the title, but what we can do is we can go to continue, and you'll have these different save slots here. We can go back, and we can quit the game. What we forgot to do was actually create a new scene for our game, and we were supposed to call it game. So that's actually the last thing we need to do, is create a new scene. Then we need to call it game. We need to save everything in this scene, and then go into our game scene. Now for our game scene, we're gonna make this pretty simple. We're just gonna go 3D object, terrain. We're gonna add some elevation to it. Maybe raise the lower terrain. Yeah, it's just gonna play around with our terrain a little bit. Nothing special. Just gonna mess around with it a bit. And then normally, do standard assets or something. But instead, I'm actually just gonna move this main camera. Don't need to mess with the y-axis too much. In front of that, I'm gonna go create 3D object, capsule. I'm gonna put this capsule right in front of the camera. Simple as that. Simplest it can never get. Alright, so that's going to be our game screen. We're going to go ahead, save, and we're going to go back to main. And now if we hit build and run, everything should work perfectly. In the Unity project. And you can do a lot of cool things. You can add like background music and everything within your scene. You go to continue, one of these save slots, but they don't do anything currently. We were actually trying to build the game. Then, we programmed it to load a save file from somewhere. We can click quit, but if we click quit, we won't be able to play our game. And we already know that works, so we can click new game. And for some reason, oh, that's right, I am such a moron. Okay, we're gonna go here to build settings. What I didn't do was actually add this scene, the scene for the game, into the actual scene build. So, sorry, I'm a moron. People make mistakes all the time. I'll take into account that it takes a long time to kind of compile a terrain, because I see it's taking a really long time to compile that terrain from the game. And we didn't even do that much to it. We like raised the elevation a little bit, and that was about it. Still taking forever. Okay, it is officially finished compiling. Now, we can test everything. We know if we go to continue, we have these the save slots, and we click back and it takes us back to the main menu. We click quit, closes the program. But that was stupid because we weren't actually trying to test that. What we are trying to test is to see if new game works, and it takes us to the scene. It loads the scene in. Now I wish I actually programmed something in, but you can't really do anything outside of this. I didn't want to import Unity standard assets just to throw in a first person controller, because that's just a waste of space on my computer as of right now, and I'm not really trying to turn this into an actual game. Though doing this tutorial has kind of inspired me to actually make a game. Hopefully this tutorial has helped. I'm not certified to teach this, and I'm also not the best at explaining this, so hopefully you take everything I've taught you into effect. I really wish I could do more, but this is basically it. This is how you create a game. This is how you create a title screen for a game and have it actually work inside of Unity, because you're definitely going to be watching this video in the future, so hopefully the Unity UI doesn't change much from here on out. It hasn't really changed much since Unity 5. So yeah, this is basically it. If you would like to support me and my MMORPG, please subscribe to my channel, as it really helps with the development of my MMORPG. It also helps if you tick the notification bell, because it keeps you up to date with all of my projects and everything I'm doing. Make sure you hit that like button, and until next time, this is Codemaster Jamal, and I'm signing out. It's like when it's time to quit, it's like the only time I ever get things right.
Season 2.